Vice posted a gun debate panel, and it has some good moments and other completely awful moments. We're going to go ahead and jump into this in just 1 second, you guys. Welcome back to the channel. If you haven't already, please consider joining my locals community. Hit that link down below, jamesklug.locals.com. I now have exclusive locals content dropping weekly. Do not miss it. Hit that link down below. Also, we're almost about to hit 500 members on the community, and we just hit 20 monthly supporters. Thank you guys so much for your continued support. Greatly appreciate it. jamesklug.locals.com. Hit that link down below. So this panel's called, or the video's called, Gun Owners and Users Debate America's Gun Problem. Vice debates. Let's jump into it.
Violence. I can't help but to think about how many people have been lost because of this perceived right or this outdated document. I feel like this debate around the Second Amendment is oversimplifying a really serious and complex issue. And unfortunately, there's too many privileged individuals having these debates, making these decisions who aren't feeling the pain of what gun violence in our country has done to us.
Okay, so this outdated document, this guy is going to be the greatest anti-gun person on this panel for basically the remainder of the panel. He just believes that the Second Amendment's outdated, shouldn't be around. He blames everything that's happening in his community on the guns instead of the community itself. You know, even in the title of the video, they say gun problem. Is it a gun problem? Is it a cultural problem? If it was a gun problem, would every single suburb in the United States be a complete disaster? It's an important question to ask yourself. Also, before we move on with this panel in this video, Vice is very strict about copyright and everything like that. So we're just going to be playing bits. I can't go through the whole video, obviously, because they'll just go after me for that. So we're going to be playing bits. But I tried to select, because I did go through it. I tried to select the key parts of this panel.
Having a gun on me would have not saved my life. If anything, it would have cost me my life, because it gives you this false concept of confidence in a life or death situation when your first instinct should be to flee or evade.
What are your ideas about other cost-effective ways to defend yourself?
Well, when we think about defending your home or your body or from harm or assault, the most impactful thing you can have is a known deterrent. Gun is not a known deterrent.
Okay, gun's not a known deterrent. The CDC reports guns being used defensively around 2 million times per year. Obviously, it's an incredibly difficult figure to track, of course, but they are, at the very least, they're used hundreds of thousands of times per year in the United States as a deterrent. As a deterrent. It's the great equalizer. It's the great equalizer between a small woman and a large man breaking into her home. So this guy was, he mentioned in the panel that he had been shot. So he was saying it wouldn't have helped me. So because he's using himself, it wouldn't have helped him in his specific situation. He's making an argument for it not helping you.
Like good ideas in terms of gun regulation, if any.
The question I have is, are we going after the guns or are we going after the people that are using them illegally? The second something happens, they don't talk about the person that committed the crime, but if someone's not on the opposite side of the gun, it will never go off unless the trigger is pulled. And I think there needs to be more accountability, whether legally or not legally used.
Police officer making some good points right here. It is an inanimate object. The person that is behind that is pulling the trigger is the person that is committing the crime. The gun isn't just going off shooting random people. So this is where they're talking about what can be done in terms of gun regulation.
Say, wait a minute, if I do something really dumb with this or hurt somebody, I might not see the light of day for a while.
We've created this image in America, and I partially blame the media, that violence in black communities is a result of criminal activity, when in reality, most situations are interpersonal conflicts that are not connected to another felony. And that false sense of having a firearm will make me safer turns what would have been a fist fight, an argument, into something that causes someone their life. You move your finger.
It's not the community that is the problem. It is the fact that the community has weapons. Now, of course, you don't want illegal weapons within a community that is a problem community. Of course. That goes without saying. But these are not arguments to limit other people's right to self-defense.
We forget to talk about white nationalism and the fact that this country was a settler colonial country based on taking land from indigenous people and suppressing enslaved people. Gun conversation, as soon as you wade into it, is so frickin' racist. It's really misogynistic, and when we really start to zoom in on this stuff, we find levers. We can better identify where threats come from.
It's the exact opposite of being racist. It actually is the exact opposite. Anti-gun legislation is racist. Trying to get guns out of the hands of minorities, because guess what? It is difficult to oppress an armed minority group. It is incredibly difficult to do so. Owning guns is not racist. Owning guns is liberty. Gun control and trying to take away guns has a racist past. The amount of examples of Black Americans back in the late 1800s owning firearms, or maybe even early 1900s owning firearms, protecting their property from racist groups like the KKK. There's countless examples of that. People that were trying to enforce anti-gun legislation were trying to get guns out of the hands of people that they didn't like, whatever minority group it may be, trying to get guns out of the hands of groups of people that they wanted to oppress. All right, so this next part is where they start jumping into mass shootings and security at schools.
So I think that if we really want to address this, you need to look at why these kids are feeling so isolated in the first place. You need to look at what are the conditions of their community that they are existing in.
But we're operating in a reality where we see it and we keep brushing it under the rug. And our children are dying, and I get really frustrated about this focus on just mass shootings and just school shootings because our kids are not safe anywhere.
This is actually one of the highlights of the debate panel, and this is a part that I definitely agree with, is a lot of these children that are going about, let's say, mass shootings. A lot of these people are isolated. They're incredibly unhealthy. They're showing signs. Let's table for a quick second all the obvious screw-ups when it comes to failing to pick up on a background check that should have failed, right? Authorities failing to pick up on that, or somebody having a long, violent criminal history and was still able to buy a gun. Let's table all of that for just the point that I'm making here. A lot of these children are isolated. They're incredibly unhealthy, and America needs to put a focus on combating the mental illness that's spreading like wildfire among our youth. So it's actually a good part of the panel right here. Not bad.
The background check system does save lives, and I think there are some tragedies that could have been avoided if we had a stronger background check system. Charleston, for example, young man applied for the background check after the deadline. They said, okay, well, we haven't seen any flags yet. Go ahead and purchase the firearm, and he went into a church and slaughtered Black folks. And I do think that there's real questions about bias and how these systems are applied and what the different flags look like. And I really think we have to get more focused on what is the goal here. Is the goal to preserve some perceived right, or is the goal to save lives?
Okay, so he's using Charleston as an example for background checks. A kid had a clean record. It didn't catch anything. He went, bought a legal firearm, and committed his mass murder. With this case, obviously, there's no perfect solution, right? So you will occasionally get somebody that has a totally clean background and they do something crazy. I would say that's the minority of cases happening. But this example that he used right here, FBI, we have from NPR. FBI says background check error, let Charleston shooter suspect buy gun. That was a failure from the authorities, and it's not even brought up in this Vice panel at all. He's just allowed to make that example, and that was supposed to be a good example for people that don't actually look into whose fault that was. He didn't have it. He shouldn't have been able to obtain that firearm. So next topic, we're going to jump to the AR-15 debate. And, it's about 3/4 of the way through the video. Looks like they're trying to save best for last, or at least, attempting to. I think it's a great idea, actually. I'm glad that they didn't just jump into that right away. Got to deal with more of the nuanced conversations before. So far, I will say this is not a bad panel. It's heavily anti-gun leaning. I'm not even showing you guys all the parts because I physically can't, but it's heavily anti-gun leaning. But this is kind of where things also start to fall apart. Let's go ahead and check this out.
If so, why not?
Why the AR-15 is popular is because it's affordable. You can customize it to whatever you need to do, whether it's self-defense, hunting, target shooting.
I think what you just said, though, is part of the problem, too, because the AR-15 is really it has a marketing appeal. And America does marketing really well. Mm-hmm. And people respond very well to marketing, especially if you're selling them something they already want.
I don't know why this guy's here. He doesn't even, I'm pretty sure he doesn't even shoot guns. He definitely doesn't own a gun. He mentioned that he didn't own a gun, I believe, and has literally nothing useful to say.
So it's very convenient. The pedestal kind of grew up under it, but now that it's there, it's very hard to take that back.
Who are you trying to defend yourself from with an AR-15?
I can
a
answer
zombie
that.
apocalypse?
Anyone.
Someone else with an AR-15.
The logic.
This lady is phenomenal in this debate panel. This guy obviously raising the questions. We hear this stuff all the time on the streets, all the time. Who are you? What do you need an AR-15 for? All right, you don't need that. You should be using a firearm that you are less effective with, because that's what the Second Amendment wants. You should be using a gun that's harder to shoot. AR-15, semi-automatic rifle, meaning you pull the trigger once, it fires one bullet. It is an incredibly effective weapon. It's easier to shoot than, let's say, a pistol. Probably going to be louder as well. So if you fire it inside, that's going to be a disaster a little bit, but whatever. And also, the very purpose of the Second Amendment is to resist the possibility of tyrannical rule. So to remove one of the most effective tools for the job when it comes to protecting yourself, whether it be for home defense, whether it be for 100 years down the road, you need a firearm that is going to do an effective job at defending your life. And an AR-15 is right up there. But this guy just sees it as, oh, well, you don't need, you can use revolver for this, because his idea of the Second Amendment is literally just for home intruders. That's it. And you know what? That's great. The Second Amendment is meant for that as well. But the purpose of the Second Amendment is to resist the possibility of tyrannical rule. It's funny how we just forget about that after like 50 years. 50 years goes by and you no longer need your right to self-preservation. A lot of countries have made that decision. A lot of countries have decided yes. And guess what? That will not pan out well for them. It's an incredibly short-sighted point of view. Next, they jump over to the Buffalo mass shooting.
I'm not bringing a handgun to a rifle fight. I'm not.
I think if someone in the Tops grocery store in Buffalo had an AR-15, that would have not saved lives. If anything, it would have harmed more people.
I think it's
Oh my God, this guy just makes the dumbest arguments. I'm not going to spend much time on that one. If somebody had, the Buffalo shooter had an AR, if somebody had an AR to stop him, it wouldn't have done anything. That person would have just hurt more people. These people's minds, an AR, you just pull it and it's just like sprays all over the room. I mean, that's literally how they see this stuff. They don't see it as you are the person behind the firearm in control. All right, so this is where the panel starts to really derail, and that's when the moderator decides that he's going to start debating people as well.
Other people's lives.
What you're describing in a way sounds like an arms race, where if someone else has an AR-15, therefore I need an AR-15, and that the end game is that everyone has an AR-15, right?
The AR-15's been around for what, 40, 50? I think it's almost 60 years old now to civilians. Like Greg has shot hunting rifles. Pretty much every hunting rifle is more powerful than AR-15. The AR-15 is the bare minimum that the U.S. government found out to be lethal to a human being.
Thank you, sir. Such a good point, actually, from this guy. Excellent point right there. It's kind of crazy. Throughout the debate panel, he really jumps around. He does a good job throwing you off for sure. He doesn't stick to kind of one direction. He does a really good job. That is a fantastic point, and a lot of people don't know this. People think that like an AR-15 is the most powerful rifle. It's actually technically, and maybe I'll get criticized in the comments for this one, but it's technically basically a high-powered pea shooter, we'll call it. There are calibers that are much bigger. And even, he says hunting rifles, even semi-automatic rifles that are much bigger, .308. There's all sorts of calibers that are much bigger than the AR-15, except for the AR-15's always been, it's always focused on. It's powerful, don't get me wrong, it's powerful for sure. But this is a fantastic response. Now, the moderator for the debate panel, I get it. It's Vice. They can do what they want. They're very left-leaning. And the moderator's obviously left-leaning as well, jumping in there, starting to debate the panel. I could probably do this myself on this channel better and not jump in and debate the panel. Let them do what they want to do. The outcome is the outcome. Don't try to shift it. I think we actually, after seeing this moderator jump in like that, and it gets worse. After seeing this moderator jump in like that's kind of, I think we should host something like this. I think we should host something like this on the channel. It definitely would be along the lines of the street videos. It would be similar. I think it would actually do pretty well. Let me know if you guys want to see that down in the comment section below. But that is it's unbelievable. His guy might not be making the argument that he wants him to be making, and so he jumps in. All right, so this next clip is this anti-gunner getting owned by the anti-gun people and the moderator jumping in again.
The same sentiment that, we should have these guns. So what's the difference between that shooter and just someone else?
Not. We're good people.
I feel like you're really putting words in our mouth, because we haven't told anyone to go out and buy an AR-15.
I want to jump in because I don't think it's necessarily about telling someone to do it. It's about the availability and the access to that weapon,
which are part of the marketing.
Oh my God. That's basically the amount that this guy provides to the panel, which is part of the marketing. Moderator jumps in once again. You guys, I promise you, I can do a better job at giving an objective moderation for a debate panel. I promise you. We can do better than this. It is Vice not getting the results that they're looking for, so the moderators having to jump in to protect people. Unbelievable.
I have a question. If we get rid of AR-15s for law-abiding citizens, how do we defend ourselves when those two guys, and don't say that's not probable, because 2 guys is more probable than 30 guys to kick in your door. How do I defend myself and my children against those 2 guys who have AR-15s? Tell me how I
the best chance you got in a situation like that is to get out the house.
Who needs the Second Amendment? Who needs your right to self-defense when you can just run away? You can just run away. You don't need guns. You just run. Again, guns are used defensively in the United States upwards of 2 million times per year. Okay? At the very minimum, it's like a few 100,000 times per year. But, who needs the right to self-defense? You just run. Can you always run away from people? What if the person's attacking you? What if the person is going for you? At this point, and it's late in the debate panel, at this point, the moderator's not happy with the solutions that the group has come to, because largely they actually haven't really talked so much about full-on gun bans, although they keep bringing up points like that guy previously saying, oh, just run, you don't need a gun or whatever, we don't need more guns in the community. They're basically saying it without saying it, and they do a good job at avoiding saying that in this panel, because once you're calling for like all-out gun bans, you start looking really radical on camera. So a lot of people have avoided that, but this moderator is not very happy with what's been discussed so far.
So far, the 2 main sort of points I'm hearing is that more guns can make you safer, from one mentality, and another is that mental health is really the solution to prevent shootings. Is there anything else, solutions-wise, that we haven't talked about could make a difference and reduce the amount of gun violence and the number of gun deaths?
I feel like actually the emphasis has not so much been put on mental health, it's actually community. I feel like that's what I've really been hearing from, even with the recent disagreements. Like, I've heard everyone here talk about community.
Totally nails it, and he's right about that. I mean, that should be the primary focus. Is the United States, we've lost this sense of community largely in many of the communities across the United States. That's why there's so many people ending up kind of growing up isolated, increasing levels of mental illness within the youth of these communities. Children need to be a primary focus, and family needs to start being put first. But when you have a society that's not doing that, and in fact going the opposite direction, where it's a me society, you're running away from what this kid's talking about. He's bringing up a great point right here, actually. The question is, as a society, how do we get back to bringing communities stronger together, making people feel purpose within their own lives?
I want to say to all of the people who have been here advocating for responsible gun use and offering your arguments and your life experience, I really just want to say it in case no one else says it to you, that I think that you have value in your community without your guns. Everything that you've talked about and everything that you've presented and the
another example of a low-key you don't need guns argument, just FYI, that's basically what this guy's alluding to right here.
I honestly think that has nothing to do with your guns.
My staunch view is more education and training. And then also, we know that we are, and thank you for saying that, valuable with or without our firearms. Whether I'm in New York, whether I'm in a country where I can't have a firearm, it's me. I am the tool. I'm the weapon. So it's me and everything I know. So the firearm's just an extension of who I am.
She crushes that. Basically, he's definitely not getting to that point. That's not his point. But she grabs this. She's an instructor, I believe. She's an instructor. Does a great job in this panel. She gets the A+ on this panel, in my opinion. The point that he was making is you don't really need guns. She takes it and says, I'm the tool. I'm the weapon. The firearm is just an extension of who she is. She totally nails that. She basically grabs onto his argument and totally shifts it into an answer that he probably wouldn't have preferred, but phenomenal response from her. The firearm is just an extension of who she is. She's the weapon. She's the tool. Personal responsibility. You are the person behind the firearm. The firearm is just an inanimate object. All right, lastly, we're going to finish off on this perfect one, and this is just an absolute banger argument from the anti-gun guy on the back left-hand corner. Let's check it out.
To begin producing mechanisms that would stop the gun industry from marketing and profiting in the way that it's been for so long.
I think if 100,000 people were getting sick from some cereal brand every single year, and 30, 40,000 of them were dying, the government would have stepped in immediately, right, and held that brand accountable. And that's what we're dealing with guns and gun violence. We're losing historic numbers of lives.
Let's just put it this way. This guy clearly has no idea why we have the Second Amendment if he's comparing your right to self-defense and companies that are manufacturing firearms to cereal brands. Perhaps this would be a different conversation if cereal was a constitutional right that was crucial to the survival of a nation. Perhaps. And perhaps there could be a good argument made that it is. No, I'm just kidding. But this is the worst argument I've seen in this debate. This guy, this is what he thinks of the Second Amendment, though, right? Cereal is not a constitutional right. Cereal does not protect millions of people per year. And cereal does not protect you from a government going tyrannical, okay? I mean, I would imagine somebody said that on this panel. Maybe they edited that out, but just a god-awful argument. Overall, though, I will say, decent panel. The moderator did a brutal job towards the end of just inserting his opinions into the conversation. When it comes to a panel, these are people discussing ideas amongst themselves. You direct the conversation to a reasonable degree, but you don't necessarily start debating the panel, right? I mean, that's not what you should do. I mean, you can do anything you want. I'm kind of considering, I really think that we should do one of these on this channel. I know it's harder than it looks to put one of these together, but I really do feel like we can give people a fair chance at duking out their ideas on a panel with fair questions to where we're not inserting arguments to go against people on the panel. I'm really curious to see if we can pull that off. I definitely can do a better job than this moderator, that's for sure. Overall, decent panel, a couple idiots, a couple really great people, and this is definitely worth checking out. I'll put the full video down below in the description, you guys. If you guys enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing, hit that like button, leave a comment down below, and also make sure you join my locals community, jamesklug.locals.com. I will catch you guys all in the next video.